Okay, this is the Super Armitron. It's a robotic arm, well, robotic in the sense that it kind of looks like a robot. But it was sold as a toy by Radio Shack back in the early to mid-90s. It was sold as a game. It had like these little plastic bits that you could kind of pick up and bring around with it. And it's got a little timer here, so you can only... You're supposed to like be able to move parts from one side to the other, but I didn't really use it for that purpose at all. But I just found it the other day, and I decided to take it apart and figure out what made it work. What I found was shocking, or just a little bit confusing and pretty cool for its time. It's only run by one standard size DC motor, 2D batteries, so 3 volts. It doesn't have a lot of power. The reason I'm not using it right now is because it's very loud when you turn it on. Yeah. I mean, it can't hold that much. It's not very strong. But I just thought that I would make a video because this is pretty cool. Okay, so to take this apart, there's 5 screws on the bottom, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and 1 in the center. Once you take those off, this whole thing just kind of pops off. I'll show this part more later. And this is the good bit. I've taken this thing apart many times, mostly to replace these things, because there's this little nubbin thing here that always broke off, because that's how it's controlled, and without that, it just... Okay, something just exploded, but whatever. So it's a 4-position joystick as well as twist for opening and closing and turning the wrist. This is the timer assembly, obviously, and there's 2 contacts here, so when this part reaches a certain time, there's a bunch of slots in here that tick away, and there's one in here that prevents these from making contact, thereby shutting the whole thing off. Otherwise, you're going to have, I think there's 4 or 5 different plastic gears in here. Each one connects, I'll show you from the other side later. Each one of these connects to the robot in a way, into the arm. And each is a different size. And these are controlled by, oh, I didn't need that, a single motor, as I said. There's more screws in here, but just for the sake of not boring anyone that might want to watch this, I took most of them off. So once you have all the screws off, this part pops out first. Just put that to the side, and this... Oh, okay, I put 3 screws in. And this comes off. That's this whole assembly. And this is where it got interesting. Let me try and get a little closer. Each of these, I'm still not 100% sure on how this works, but each of the, I'll just show you, dang it. Alright, I'm going to turn it on, and this is where the joysticks would go. I only have one now. You have up, down, when it's not falling out of the thing. And you can see that it's turning this little bit right in here. Let me try and point to that better. That. You can see it pushes it to the side. Each of these little cylinders will spin. If you move them out of the way, they will spin to a certain position and stay there, and they'll kind of rest up against these plastic arms here until you move it. So let me turn this on. You can see yeah, this thing doesn't operate all that well without the rest of it in place. Each of these gears kind of moves a little bit freely across this arm, and there's a corresponding guide up in the bottom here, and all the screws just fell out, that keeps them in line where they need to be. This worm gear here and this one are for the timer. So you can kind of do a little bit of physical hacking here and just remove this gear and the timer won't move and it'll just stay on. That's always been an annoyance for me because you're trying to play with this thing and then it just randomly shuts off and you don't know why. So you replace the batteries and you go through all these troubleshooting steps only to find out that the frickin' timer is just been tripped. So I'm going to go over to the arm side and I'll try and show you a little bit more from there. Alright, here's the actual arm with nothing else attached to it. So it has a full range of motion, to gearing and such. And here's the good bit. It's all controlled by the central gear system. You can see if I turn the wrist, one gear moves, and if you turn it the other way, another gear moves. Same thing for opening and closing and the elbow. I should probably re-lubricate some of this because it's sat in my basement for quite a while. But yeah, all of these gears hook up to the corresponding worm gears, and yeah, that part's not very complicated. So I'm going to put it back together and make sure it still works, but I hope this has kind of been interesting because it was interesting to me. So screw you if you found it boring.